Okay, this lesson we're going to be talking about sketch relations. So I'm just going to start a brand new drawing. I'm going to go up to my new drawing here, and I'm going to select part, click OK, and that brings me into my workspace. So we're going to start a sketch, and we have to pick a plane to start our sketch on. So I'm just going to choose the top plane. So I'm going to left click and click on the sketch icon, and that's going to get us ready for a sketch. Now, using the line tool, this is just strictly the line tool, I'm going to create a line down on the bottom here, and left click, and I've got a continuous line segment here, so I'm going to go down to the little point, double left click, and that's going to exit me from the line tool. Now I'm going to type L on my keyboard, and that's going to start the line tool again. And this time I'm going to go from the left side here, and I'm not going to draw a straight line. It's going to be crooked on purpose. And we'll do another line like so. And this time, I'm just going to zoom in and out a little bit. This time I'm going to go back to that point, just hover for a moment, and then come back out. And that's going to start drawing my arc. So I'm going to draw an arc somewhere around here. Then another angled line, maybe out here, and finally closing that geometry. Now, I did this on purpose because we're going to talk about sketch relations. What I want to do in terms of sketch relations is first exit out of the line command. So right now you see the pencil as my cursor. I'm going to hit escape on the keyboard, and that's going to turn it back into the arrow. Now, by just selecting one of these lines, so if I select this line on the left here, left click once. Oops, that was actually on the right on the midpoint. I didn't mean to do that. So I selected my line. It is light blue. So having a light blue line, I look over here on the left-hand side to my add relations. I can make this horizontal, vertical, or I can fix it in its current orientation. So I'm going to click on vertical, and it makes that line vertical, and it places the little green vertical relation. So you can do this with single line elements, single arced elements, or you can do with multiple elements. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I want to take this line and this arc, and I want to make this intersection tangent. So it's going to be a nice smooth transition. So in order to do that, I'm going to left click on the line. I'm going to hold Control on the keyboard, and I'm going to left click on the arc. With those two lines now selected, and I see that in my selected entities, I look at the relations that are possible, and SOLIDWORKS is telling me that, well, I can fix it, I can have equal curve length, or I can make them tangent. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to left click on tangent, and it places a tangent relation here. Now, just by happenstance, it also created a tangent relation here. So that kind of works out for me because I was going to do that next anyways. So with this, all right, I'm now going to select this bottom line, left click, and I'm going to make it horizontal. All right, so that's horizontal. This left line, I'm going to left click to select it, making sure not to select the midpoint of the line because then you start getting into some other points, and we don't need to do that right now. We're just clicking on the line in general. So I'm going to click vertical here and make that a vertical relation. Now, to have some of these lines be fully defined, we need to anchor them to the origin somehow at some point. Okay, so I'm going to just click and left space here and start from scratch with this line. Maybe this was a center line. So if this was a center line, let's click on it once to select it. And we do have the add relations, but we also have the option for construction lines. Construction line in SOLIDWORKS is another word for a center line. So I'm going to click that on, and you'll notice that it turns it into a center line. And with this being selected, I'm also going to hold Control and select the origin point. Now, with those two elements selected, I've got the origin point selected, I have the center line selected, It's giving me that I can make the line coincident with the origin, or I can have the midpoint of the line be coincident. So I'm going to click midpoint, and it places the midpoint coincident with the origin. So now this line is locked to the origin. If I try to move it, it's not going to move. I can lengthen and shorten it, but it's locked to the origin. If that was a mistake, well, there's a couple things I can do. Usually you're allowed to click on the coincident relation, and you can click delete, and that will remove that relation. So the icon is gone, which means I can now grab this center line and move it away from my origin. Okay. Alternatively, I'm going to reorient this back to the origin here, go back to my midpoint. And by selecting this line, right, that's already fixed to the origin, I can look up with existing relations, and this will tell me, oh yeah, it's got a horizontal relation and it also has a midpoint relation. And it gives them a number based on when you actually clicked it and when you confirmed its new relation. So I can go up here, midpoint 4, and I can click delete. That'll also get rid of it. I'm going to undo really quick by Control Z. I can also go up here in the ribbon on the sketch tools and click display delete relations. And this will give me all of the relations that are in this entire sketch. All right. So in this current sketch, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 7 different relations. Again, I can go in here, delete the relation. I can filter by, asking, are there any dangling relations? Are there any overdefined or not solved? Any broken? So you can filter out the various relations that you have. So I'm going to click on my midpoint. I'm going to delete. I'll move this line. Whoops. I'll move this line out of the way. Come on. Let's green check that and move it now. There we go. And I'm just going to delete this line. So if I wanted this particular sketch to be anchored to this origin point, usually you would anchor it either at the midpoint of a baseline or at the corner point of a baseline. So I'm going to click this left point here. I'm going to hold Control, and I'm going to select the origin. And I've got coincident as an option. Now, just to let you guys know, I'm not sure what it's going to do. I'm assuming because we don't have any dimensions defined, this might contort, but the end result is that this point will be coincident with this point. So let's hit coincident and see what happens. Okay, so it placed that point coincident with the origin. It didn't alter the shape too much, but this would be the point where we start placing our dimensions using the Smart Dimension tool, and we start to fully define our shape. So you'll notice that some of the lines are black here. The other lines are blue. The blue means that we're underdefined. The black means that it is defined. And we want to make sure that our entire sketch is black. That's the proper way of doing things. So we're going to come over here, and I'm going to grab this line. We're going to make this 2.5 inches, so 2.500. Hit enter. We're going to grab this radius, and let's make this radius 2 inches. Oh, I don't have to change that. Let's double left click, and we'll make it 1 inch. There we are. And let's see, what else can we do? We need to define this height here. We'll make this 1.5 inches, 1.50. And we've got a width on the bottom. We'll make this 3.5 inches. And with that last move, we've got all the lines black, which means that this object is now fully defined and it can be properly turned into a three-dimensional feature. Nothing's going to surprise us. Nothing's going to move on us. And this is a nice secured sketch. So I'm going to exit my sketch. I'm going to do that up here, exit sketch. It's automatically highlighted blue. If for some reason this is gray, all you have to do is come over here to sketch number 1 or whatever sketch number it is, left click on it once, and that's going to highlight your sketch for you. So if I click on it once, it's going to highlight my sketch. I'm also going to see my sketch relations, but that is buried in the sketch. So I can go ahead and hit my extruded boss base, and we apply a 3-dimensional feature. So I can grab this arrow and change my width. I can also go here and change my width. And once I'm satisfied, then I can hit the green check. And that creates my first 3D solid. All right, be back for more information on SolidWorks.